In this video, we're finally gonna break down Trigger. Everything from her kit, team synergies, her best build, and way more. Sit back, relax, and let's dive right in. As a reminder, all of the content in this video is from the creator beta server. As such, some information and values may change slightly for the full release. Thank you very much to Hoyoverse for granting early access, and now we can officially talk about Trigger. Trigger is our upcoming S-rank electric stun unit from Obol Squad. That's right, Soldier 11 finally isn't alone and has a little friend. Trust me when I say this character has great assets. She's our first primary off-field stunner and is extremely versatile and synergizes with a bunch of different teams, as you'll see a little bit later. Even more is that she's extremely simple and very easy to master. Trigger focuses on 3 important concepts. Just like the other 2 characters of the 1.6 patch, her main important concept is Aftershock. If you need a reminder on this mechanic, feel free to watch any of the other early access videos for Pulchra, Anby, or Trigger. For the sake of this video, just remember Aftershocks are your off-field follow-up attacks from Pulchra and Trigger. The other biggest things to remember about Trigger are the Sniper Stance and Purge. Cold Bore Shot isn't going to get used that much, but it will unleash 4 shots ahead. The first 3 dealing physical and the 4th hit dealing electric damage. We've already discussed Silenced Shot, and that's when you enter the sniper stance by holding down the button. She will continuously fire doing electric damage. You can move it around left, right, or back, and you will dodge automatically any enemy attack once every 8 seconds. Each shot of this continuous fire will give you 25 purge up to that maximum 100, and when you use the finishing move, you'll trigger the quick assist of the previous character in the squad. For the 2 forms of Trigger's Aftershock, Harmonizing Shot and Tartarus, just remember the slight differences. The first form is activated with basic attack, dodge counter, special attack, dash attack, or quick assist, and will take 3 purge per shot. Tartarus is activated with a heavy attack from EX Special, Assist Follow-Up, or Ultimate, and will take 5 purge per shot, with the added bonus of triggering up to 2 times within 20 seconds for the entire squad, per skill type. All of Trigger's dodges and assists are pretty straightforward, just remember that the Assist Follow-Up can trigger Tartarus. Chain Attack also doesn't have any extra features. Special Attack Spectral Flash will also not be used that much, but it will lunge forward with a slash dealing electric damage with higher anti-interrupt level. However, EX Special Attack Flash Burial is much more important. This will basically be the same thing as regular special attack, but it will trigger the quick assist of the previous character in the squad. But wait, there's more. When this skill hits an enemy, Trigger will enter the coordinated support state. While in coordinated support, when any other active character in this squad hits an enemy with an attack, it will trigger basic attack Harmonizing Shot without consuming purge, and there won't be any cooldown. This state lasts 8 seconds and will trigger up to 4 times. But here's the cool thing about this state. When you repeatedly enter coordinated support, you can extend the duration and grant additional triggers, up to 20 seconds and 10 total times. But Mogul, how else do I activate coordinated support? Well, my friends, when your decibel rating is at 3000 aka max, you of course know what time it is. Press Q to activate Ultimate Underworld Requiem. This deals a powerful shot at enemies in a large area ahead, dealing massive electric damage. This can also trigger the quick assist of the previous character in the squad. This next bunch of text just states that Trigger enters the coordinated support, just like we just talked about. The only difference here is that this state will last 12 seconds and can trigger up to 6 times after using the ultimate. Basically, when you use Ultimate and EX Special right next to each other, you'll get that full 20 seconds and 10 triggers. Overall, you can see how simple and easy to play Trigger really is. As we stated earlier, just get your purge meter full, switch to a new character, and you'll do tons of days and damage with Trigger off the field in her Aftershock mechanic. As if her kit wasn't simple enough, she still has really simple core passives. Soul Searching Gaze activates when Trigger's Aftershock hits an enemy, and this will increase the enemy's stun damage multiplier by 35% for 5 seconds, even if the target isn't stunned. this is already a really good source of versatility in team compositions and synergies for Trigger. And that's before we even talk about additional ability, Silver Lantern's Gaze. It's very easy to activate, and when another character in your squad is attack or electric, it will trigger. Sorry for the bad pun. When her crit rate exceeds 40%, each 1% crit rate above this threshold increases her days dealt by aftershock attacks by 1.5% up to a max of 75. With our quick math ability, we can deduce this to be 90% crit rate needed to achieve this full effect. This may seem like a pretty daunting task to get that 90%, but it is actually very achievable with her signature W engine and builds, which we can finally talk about right now since we know the full extent of her kit and abilities. Starting with the W engine. Trigger's best in slot will be the signature engine made for her, Spectral Gaze. Remember that we need 90% crit rate, which is made a lot easier with the advanced stat of this W engine. The actual effect is also pretty powerful. When Trigger hits an enemy with an aftershock causing electric damage, the defense will be reduced of the target by 25% for 5 seconds. Plus, if she is not the active character when this is triggered, she'll gain a stack of Spirit Lock, up to 3 stacks. Each stack will increase her impact by 4%, lasting 12 seconds, plus another 8% when she has full stacks. In other words, you get a 24% crit rate boost, 25% defense reduction on the enemy, and a 20% impact boost for Trigger. Overall, I would recommend this W engine over Mindscape 1, and we'll go into detail on the Mindscapes towards the end of the video. Since all of Trigger's really important mechanics are on basic attack, Von Lycone's signature, the Restrained, is the second best choice we can have. A quick note here is that the advanced stat is impact, so it will still be tougher in order to hit that 90%. This will be the same for our A rank W engines as well. However, you can get away with using Precious Fossilized Core and Steam Oven, even though their performance will be significantly lower than the S ranks. As for disk drives, there's two main build options here that are very powerful. My favorite build to use during testing was 4-piece Shadow Harmony with a 2-piece Shockstar Disco. This set really focused on her damage and aftershock ability with a slight boost to impact. The second build was much more impact focused for Trigger and featured 4-piece Shockstar Disco with a 2-piece Woodpecker Electro. But there is a slight caveat here, especially when we consider the 2-piece. If you have Trigger's signature W engine, odds are that you'll get pretty close to that crit rate without even needing Woodpecker Electro. In this case, you can replace Woodpecker with more electric damage with Thunder Metal, or crit damage with Branch and Blade Song. However, the most important thing is to make sure that you're close to that crit rate value. As for main stats, slot 4 should definitely be crit rate, unless you're already pretty close to that 90% threshold, then you can switch to crit damage. Slot 5, you can either use electric damage bonus or attack percent, and slot 6 should only be impact. Substats follow the same rule, with crit rate being better than crit damage, equal to attack percent, and then the rest. As for our cute little helper friends, the Bang Boos, I always used Plug Boo, especially with electric weakness, but Snap and Butler are also very good options. All in all, just make sure you match the Bang Boo to your team composition. But now it's finally time to discuss one of the more important things about Trigger, her team synergies. Remember that Trigger works as a general off-field stun agent with that big juicy stun damage multiplier bonus. Since she also features the new Aftershock mechanic, her best partner will be Soldier Zero Anby. While Trigger is extremely versatile, her best current team will be Trigger, Soldier Zero Anby, and Astra Yao. Anby innately boosts Trigger's aftershock crit damage, making her even more of a powerhouse. Don't forget that our brand new Catgirl Thyron waifu also features aftershock. Because of this, you can actually replace Astra Yao if you don't have her with Pulchra in a pretty cool double stun team composition. Past this, there's a ton of teams we could talk about, but there is a general formula for using Trigger that you can follow. Usually, you'll use Trigger with a main DPS and then pretty much any other third slot. Could be Caesar King, could be any support, could be another stunner like Ching Yi, it depends on what you want to use. My favorite team to use with Trigger was actually Evelyn, herself, and Astra Yao. Again, if you don't have Astra Yao, you can use Lighter, Lucy, or another support in order to fill the flex. The same will be true of all the other elements of following that main formula. but there is one slight caveat to mention. When dealing with more burst-focused DPS like Ellen Jo, Zhu Yuan, or Harumasa, I actually really liked using Trigger along with Qing Yi. This works surprisingly well because Trigger doesn't want any on-field time, whereas Qing Yi wants to be the star of the show. But my friends, there is one more secret team that you might not initially think of working with Trigger. I will admit that I'm personally not the biggest fan of Grace Howard, and I tend to not use her that often, but she surprisingly has decent synergy with Trigger. This obviously won't be her best team by any stretch of the imagination, but it was actually really fun using Grace, Trigger, and a flex third slot like Rena. But if you've seen any of my previous Should You Pull videos, you know I like to leave you with a free-to-play team. For this, I used Trigger, Harumasa, and regular Anby. I'm genuinely surprised of how well Anby still holds up after all this time. And this team was able to clear Shiyu Defense 7 Electric Week relatively quickly. Anyway, just remember that Trigger is a very versatile unit and will work in lots of different team compositions, especially when following that Aftershock team or just any general main DPS. For those of you who want to improve Trigger's assets, let's talk about Mindscapes. Mindscape 1 Sharpened Senses increases that stun damage multiplier by an additional 20% for free. Basic attack harmonizing shots cooldown is reduced to 2 seconds for each activation, and you get way more purge in the sniper stance with a boost of up to 125 as the new maximum. Basically, this makes it nearly impossible to run out of purge, as well as significantly boosting both days and damage of Trigger with those aftershocks. However, even though this Mindscape is actually very good, I would still recommend her signature W engine over it. Having that additional stat of crit rate and all of those aforementioned buffs is way more important for Trigger's build and overall gameplay. But if you're like me, then you're probably gonna go for both, so rip my wallet in advance. Mindscape 2 gives Trigger a new buff called Hunter's Gaze when using Aftershock. She'll also gain 2 more stacks of this by exiting the sniper stance. Each stack of this new buff increases all squad members' crit damage by 6%, stacking up to 4 times, lasting 10 seconds. Basically, a 10-second long 24% crit damage boost from just using Trigger normally. Mindscape 4 gives us a new debuff to place on the enemy when Trigger enters coordinated support and activates her Aftershock mechanic. This new debuff called Disconnect will deal an additional damage equal to 200% of Trigger's attack and inflict daze equal to 120% of Trigger's impact, with a relatively high interrupt level. Mindscape 6 turns Trigger into a literal walking nuke. Basically, when you enter the battlefield with Trigger, you'll gain 5 armor break rounds, and this will increase by 1 additional round for every 25 purge you use, up to a max of 5 total rounds. When you have this new mechanic, hitting any enemy in sniper stance will use one of these rounds, dealing additional electric damage equal to 1200% of Trigger's attack, and then increasing that round of damage by 50%. In other words, things go boom. And there you have it for a full build and kit guide for Trigger. I hope you are all as excited as I am for her release in just a couple of days, but I want to hear from all of you in the comments below. What do you think about Trigger? And are you going to pull for her? Make sure to like the video if it helped in any way, and subscribe for plenty more Zenless Zone Zero content. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and bye for now.